Hi everybody, and welcome to our first theory online lesson. Woohoo! This is lesson number 1. I hope you are all well and surviving being stuck at home. This purpose for these videos is to help particularly musical theatre singers, but it will be appropriate for anyone that's learning music. It's to help you read music and to really get those rudiments of music from the very basics, from the very start under your belts. We're going to be looking at exercises from this book here, which is the Grade 1 theory book. If you haven't bought it already, this lessons and all the lessons are going to be pre-recorded, so you can just catch up in your own time. I wanted to pre-record them because partly it meant that you could go back and recap the lesson, and it means that you can also go at your own pace, so if you need to stop and start things, it'll be more useful for the individual. So that's why they're all pre-recorded, but I will be on Zoom during and after 7 o'clock during this lesson time. So if anyone has any questions, I will put up the link and the code for the Zoom group if you want to join me for Q&As or any questions that you have on the work afterwards. So the plan for each session is we're going to look at a certain section from the workbook. I will highlight for you the main learning points from it. So I'm not going to go and give you the answers. It wouldn't be a very good teaching point, would it? So I'm going to give you the main learning points, and then I will leave you to work on the answers. And what I will do is in the next video, start that lesson off with the answers to the work that we set in the previous lesson. We're also going to look at a study piece just to kind of put the work in context. During the lesson today, we're looking at Castle on a Cloud from Les Mis, so it would be worth you going to listen to that at some point, because we're looking at time signatures, and that piece in particular has a lot of time signature changes, so I'll take you through the score and discuss a few points from that. So it's definitely worth trying to listen to that piece at some point while you may be doing the work over the next few days. I will put the next video up on Sunday, and we'll look at the next couple of chapters after that, okay? I put this all on YouTube because I think it's the easiest way for you to kind of download and access the videos. On the YouTube link on the video, there are links to different sites that you might be useful to kind of reinforce the work that we've done today. So if you want to do a bit of extra work, if you fancy that, there are various links on the YouTube video, and there's also a link to this book here. Not plugging it, but that's the theory book, and that's a guide to the theory book that we've got here. You'll see in the book that at the start of each chapter, it says here, the AB Guide to Music Theory. That in red there, that refers to that book. I've put a link up on Amazon for it if you want to use that as well. So here's the first lesson. Enjoy. Please leave comments and things and let me know how you get on with it. I hope it will help you pass the time. It's been fun making these videos, certainly for me. I've not put any product in my hair for the first time in 3 weeks, so yeah, every bonus. So have a good time, enjoy, and let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Hi everyone, so this is page 4 of the Grade 1 theory book, very beginning, and we're starting with time values. So looking at how notes are written and what the meaning of how long the duration of that note is, so how long the note lasts for when you see it on the music. We're going to be looking at the American names as well as the standard European names that we use over here, primarily because knowing the American name for it actually helps with the working out of how long things last for. It'll all become apparent in a second. So we've got the American name, the European equivalent, and then the value of the beat, so how long the note lasts for when you see this type of note. So the first note that we're going to look at is the whole note in American, and over here in Europe we call it the semibreve. Now the semibreve or whole note lasts for 4 counts, so when you see that note, it looks like a circle. In music we call it a head. That is a 4 count note, so you hold that or you sing that note for 4 beats. The next note, as we split that down, we're going to look at the half note, and the half note in European language is called the minim, and a minim lasts for 2 counts. Now it has a head, so a circle, which is another name for the head, and this time it has a stem on it, so a stem is the stick basically. So just note the difference between the minim and the semibreve. Now the quarter note, which is called the crotchet, lasts for 1 beat, 1 count, and it looks a lot like the minim, but the head is coloured in and it still has the stem. So what I'm doing here on the diagram, you can see, is that I'm splitting each of the notes into half again. So we've started with the whole note, we've split it into 2 to create the minim. We've now taken a minim and split that into 2 to create a crotchet. what we're going to do next is split the crotchet up. So we split a quarter, which gives us an eighth. An eighth note is called a quaver, and it's worth half a beat each, okay? Now, the quavers look a lot like the crotchets, so they have a coloured in head, they have a stem, but they also have a flag at the top of it or underneath it. A flag is basically the tail. So if you look at the differences between the crotchet and the quaver has got that tail or the flag at the very top, the extra bit. Now, what I'm doing here is you can write quavers in two different ways. You can write them separately as individual notes with a separate flag, or you can do what's called beaming them together, so you can beam two of them together. So if you look at those quavers, the third and fourth ones that I've drawn there, they're beamed together, they're joined together, but they're still quavers. And finally, you don't need it for grade 1, but I thought I'd include it anyway. We're going to split the quaver into half, so splitting an eighth gives us a 16th. A 16th note in American is called a semiquaver over here in Europe. They're worth a quarter each, and I'm not going to do them all because it's going to be 16 and I'm running out of space. So what we do is the difference between a quaver and a semiquaver is we give them two flags. So you can see the quaver there, one flag or one beam. And what I'm doing here is I'm giving the semiquaver two flags, two beams across the top. So again, you can write them in different ways. So what I'm going to do now is put that into practice for exercise 2 on page 4. So just a reminder of all those things that we've just talked about. The semi-breve that you can see there, which is just the head, is worth a 4 count, so it's 4 beats, okay? And then if we look at the minim, which was there, that's got the head, but it's also got the stick, the stem as well. So that's a 2 beat count for the minim. The next one is the crotchet, which is 1 count. It's coloured in, the head is coloured in this time. We've got the quaver. Now remember, the difference between the quaver and the crotchet is that the quaver has that flag, that tail at the top of it, okay? And that's worth half a beat. And then finally, don't need it for grade 1, so I'll put it in brackets, but I know some of you will be interested to know anyway. The semi-quaver, which is half, as in semi, half a quaver, it's worth a quarter, and it's got 2 flags. So it looks like the quaver, but it's got 2 flags. So they're the times, they're the time values that you need to know for grade 1, okay? So just to show you how that it goes in practice, and this will help you answer exercise 1 and exercise 2. So a few math sums here. Now, if you imagine them as sums rather than musical notes, this will be really helpful. So semi-breve is 4 counts. So how many minims do we have? They equal the semi-breve 2. So we've got 2 minims because it's 2 each, isn't it, for the minim? So 2 plus 2 equals 4. So how many crotchets is a semi-breve? So there's your crotchet. Crotchet is 1 count. So you're going to have 4 crotchets in a semi-breve, because remember, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, crotchet plus crotchet plus crotchet plus crotchet equals 4, equals the semi-breve. So when I'm doing this with kids at school, you can make lots of kind of maths games out of it, because basically all you're doing is assigning a symbol, a musical sign, to a number, and that's how we work out these time questions that you'll be doing in grade 1. So new question, we're going to have a minim now. So how many beats is a minim worth? So a minim is worth 2 counts. So if you can quickly work that out in your head, what I'm going to do next. So how many minims are there in a crotchet? How many quavers are there? Sorry, how many crotchets are there in a minim, and how many quavers are there in a minim? So crotchets are worth 1 beat, remember? So there's going to be 2 crotchets. So a minim is worth the same as 2 crotchets, because they're worth 1 each, aren't they? 1 plus 1 equals 2. How many quavers? So we are going to have 4 quavers. 4 quavers is the same as 1 minim. And look there how I've beamed the first 2, and I've drawn the 3rd and 4th quavers as separate ones, just so you can remember that even though they look slightly different, they are the same note, they're the same value, they're just beamed differently. So quavers 1 and 2 there are beamed together. Quavers 3 and 4 that I'm doing now have got their separate tails, their separate flags. Okay, so 4 quavers is the same as 2 crotchets, and 2 crotchets is the same as 1 minim. Last one. So we've got 1 crotchet. So 1 crotchet is worth a count of 1, remember? How many quavers are there in a crotchet? And how many semiquavers are there in a crotchet? So again, do the maths. Quavers are worth half each. So it's going to be 2 quavers equals 1 crotchet. 2 halves equals 1. And then if semiquavers are worth a quarter each, look at the top of the page. If they're worth a quarter each, how many semiquavers are there in a crotchet? Yeah, so there are 4 semiquavers in a crotchet. Now what I'm going to do here is with the semiquavers, again, this is grade 2 theory really, but you can actually beam a group of 4 semiquavers together. So like I beamed those quavers together, so I put 2 quavers together with the bar across the top, you can actually do a full beam that I'm doing now to group 4 semiquavers together. When you read music, it actually helps when you visualize it, because basically there what you've done is you've beamed together a full beat, because you've got your 4 quarter notes, 4 semiquavers there that I'm writing in now. And what you've done there by beaming them together, you've kind of helped create that 1 beat bar that 1 beat to look at. So it really helps when you're reading the music, when you're looking at it, that you see those 4 together. So 4 semiquavers equals 1 crotchet. Okay, so we're continuing with page 5 now, and time signatures. Now, time signatures are found at the beginning of music. I'm going to go through some examples later on, and they tell the reader how many beats there are in a bar. So how do we group the music? Now this is really important. Think about rehearsals when you are counting choreography counts, or you're asked to like feel the pulse. It's in 3, it's in 4. This is what the time signature tells us. So I've just written here on the sheet 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. 4/4 is also known as a C, it's common time, and it tells us how many beats there are in a bar, these time signatures that I've just written, but also what type of beats we need to count, because obviously if it's 4/4, is it 4 quavers, is it 4 crotchets, what is it? So the bottom number tells us what type of beat, and the top number tells us how many beats. So 2/4, so if you see a 2/4 at the beginning of music, it means therefore that there are 2 crotchet beats in a bar. Okay, I'm going to explain why the bottom 4 means crotchet in a moment. So how many beats? It's 2, because the top number tells you how many. What type of beats? Well, it's 4. Now, if we go back to what I wrote at the very start of the lesson, when we break that whole note down, that semi-breve, once we've broken it down, we split it into 4 crotchets. So the 4 from the time signature comes from the crotchet that we split there. So, for example, if the bottom number in the time signature was a 2, I've just written there, it means that the types of beats would be minims. If the bottom number was a 1, it would mean that you're counting how many semi-breves there are in a bar. And similarly, number 8 at the bottom is how many quavers in a bar, and 16 at the bottom, how many semi-quavers in a bar. Now, you only need to know those ones at the top of this page that I'm writing here for grade 1. So 3/4 means 3 crotchet beats, because the top number is how many beats, remember? Look at the top. 3 crotchet beats in a bar. They're crotchet beats because the bottom number is a 4. That's because when you split the whole note, you get 4 crotchets, sorry. You're splitting it into quarters, into 4. Okay, so the next one that we're going to look at here is 6/8. More common in grade 2 onwards. So 6, how many beats in the bar? Well, there's 6. What type of beat? They're going to be quavers, aren't they? Because again, split the whole note up into 8ths, and 8ths are quavers. Okay, so a lot like fractions this, if you can remember that back at school. So a few more examples. I'm just going to write them around the page, and we'll just do these orally. I won't write them all down because you get the gist. If you remember, top number is how many beats, bottom number is what type. So 4/4 also can be written as a C, common time. It's the most popular one. So 4 crotchets in a bar. 5/8, how many beats? 5. What type of beats are they? Quavers, because it's those 8ths. We've split that whole note into 8. Last one that I've written there, 4/2. So how many beats? 4. What type of beats are those 4 beats? They are minims. Okay, so we're going to put that into practice now and look at some of the exercise on page 5 and look at these time signatures in context. So, for example, we have a time signature here of 3/4. So what does 3/4 actually mean? So we've got 3 beats in a bar, and the 4 tells us that they are crotchet beats. Now, if you look at the music that I've just drawn there, we've got our 3 crotchets. Now, after that, I've drawn that line. Now, that line is called a bar line, and that tells us that then the next count of 3 starts. So if you look at the music that I've just drawn there, we've got 3 crotchets and a bar line because we're at the end of the 3 counts, and then afterwards I've drawn 2 quavers and a minim, which is another 3 beats, isn't it? Because we've got a half and a half and a 2. So I need another bar line after it. Okay, so we're grouping these in 3. Basically, like I said, the bar line helps us group these counts, these time signatures together. Now, I've written in the next bar a crotchet, 2 quavers and another crotchet. How many beats is that altogether? It's going to be 3, isn't it? Because we've got a crotchet worth 1, 2 quavers worth half each, and another crotchet worth 1. So we have another bar line at the end of that pattern. And then finally at the end, I've drawn a crotchet and a minim, which equals another 3. Now, I've just drawn there 2 lines. We call that a double bar line because there's 2, and it means it's the end of the piece. It's the end of the music. So that signifies the end, the double bar line. Okay, here's another example. So this is now exercise 5 on that page 5 for you. It's asking you to fill in missing notes. Now, this is just like maths. So if we have a 4/4 example, that means there has to be 4 crotchet beats in the bar. I'm not going to do the ones that are written because you can do them yourself, okay? So if I have in that first bar a minim, and then I'm missing something else before the bar line, what do I need to draw in? The next bar, I've got 3 crotchets, and then I've just drawn the bar line. So we've only got 3 counts. What's missing? And then the next bar, I've drawn a minim, and I'm showing there that it's the end because it's the double bar line. What's missing in each of these bars? Now remember, they each need to equal 4 beats because of the 4/4 time signature that we've got. So 4, and it's 4/4, so it's 4 crotchets, isn't it? Crotchet is the bottom number in the time signature. So just to go through the answers, we've got a minim there that's worth 2, so we're 2 short. Now remember, the question is asking you to draw 1 note, so the answer there is 1 minim. You could draw 2 crotchets. Yes, it would equal 4, wouldn't it, in total, but they're asking you to write 1 note. Second bar, we're missing 1 beat still, so I need to draw a 1 beat, which is a crotchet. And then the final bar, we've got 2 counts already. What are we short of to make it 4? We're short of another 2, aren't we? If I ask you to draw 1 note, you've got to draw 1 note. That's going to be the minim. So what I wanted to do now was put this in context of musical theatre. This is Castle on a Cloud from Les Mis. You'll probably recognise it from the lyrics. Now I'm just going to highlight certain parts of the score. So, circled, we've got 4/4 at the start of the music. So we now know that that means there's 4 beats in a bar at the start of this song. And we know that the beats that we are counting are crotchets. If we check the piano part, this is the piano reduction here. If we look at the left hand, which is the bottom line of music, we've got minims and we've got crotchets. We've got 1 minim worth 2 and 2 crotchets worth 1 each. So, and then you can see after that we've got the bar line, that straight line drawn down through the music. Next, at the end of that line, I've just circled that it goes to 2/4. So the time signature actually changes in this song. It goes from 4 to 2. But then, when the vocals come in, with the There Is a Castle on a Cloud section, it changes to 3 again, which I'm circling now. So the time signature in this song doesn't stay the same. That's why it's a nightmare to learn, especially because it's for a little one to sing as well. So it's quite difficult because of this changing time signature. I've circled there 3/4 because again it changes to 3 beats in a bar. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just showing you why is it 3. So we've got in the tune, we've got a quaver, 2 semiquavers, and look how they're beamed together. We talked about beaming previously. And then we've got more quavers at the end in that bar, which are worth half each. So that's why there's 3 beats in a bar. We've got 1, 2nd beat there, 3rd beat there. So that gives us our 3/4 time signature that I'm circling there. Okay, if we look at the next bar, it's in 2/4, which means there are only 2 crotchets in the bar. We've got a minim there in the left hand that we need. And then the next bar is back to 3/4 again. So you can see we've got quaver that I'm drawing in, 2 semiquavers, and then our 2nd beat, which is 2 quavers, 2 halves, and then our third beat, which is 2 halves. Again, that gives us that 3/4 time signature. So you can see there I'm just drawing the quaver times in for you. And again, we have another 2/4. So 2 crotchets in that bar. And then the final bit, time signature changes again to 3/4. We've got our half beat quavers, we've got our quarter beat semi-quavers. That's why I wanted to talk about them in the lesson, even though we don't do them for grade 1. They're useful for you to recognise. And I'm just writing in the remaining beats there. And then we have the 2 count at the end. Now, just going back to the top again, there's our bar line. So we have our count of 4 beats, and then our bar line that separates us and tells us it's the next section of music, okay? What's interesting about bar lines also is that in American terms, they call them measures. So rather than saying there's 3 beats in a bar, they would say there's 3 beats in a measure. And measure's a good way of thinking about those bars as well, because basically all you are doing is you are measuring out a certain amount of beats before you put your vertical line down to start the next measure, the next bar.